Hey guys, how's it going? Today, I wanted to just put up a quick video talking about some quick thoughts I had as the verdict just came out of Jennifer Crumbley. Her son was a school shooter in Michigan, and they charged the parents. I'm sure everybody's heard this story, but of course the verdict just came out, and she was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter on 4 counts. For the 4 people that her son killed in that shooting. Now, I want to first say I don't want to offend anybody. I don't mean this in any bad way. And I know that there is a lot of emotions and mixed feelings. And obviously, I care the most about the victims and their families. And that should be the number one priority. But that said, I do have my own thoughts on this, and I'm open to people disagreeing in the comments, discussion, or, maybe I'm just saying my thoughts to the wind. I don't know. But if anyone's interested in discussing it, comments are open, and here's kind of what I'm thinking. I don't think she should have been found guilty, first off. I think after watching all of the days of the trial, seeing all of the evidence, and hearing both sides, first off, it was quite a unprofessional trial. The setup was weird, where they didn't have sidebars to stop the jury from hearing things they shouldn't hear. So a lot of things were said to the judge in front of the jury, and that was a little inappropriate. I think Jennifer already has a fairly strong basis for appeals based just on the unprofessionalism of the courtroom. But, if that's how the courtroom there is always operating, then perhaps not. I'm not a lawyer, so again, what do I know? Take this all with a grain of salt. Secondly, I think that she only knew an extent of what her son was going through, and as someone who was a 10th grader going through some stuff, I didn't share it with everybody. Like, I wrote things in my journals, and Ethan wrote things in his journals, not to give him attention, but, I get it. Like, there's things she should have seen. I'm not even going to say should have seen. She could have seen. There's signs she should have been looking out for. There's definitely places she went wrong. And I think a good reason why the jury found her guilty is because she didn't show a whole lot of remorse. At one point, she said, essentially, like, I wouldn't change anything. And I get from a defendant point of view, she has to say that a little bit, because if she says, I would have changed a bunch, it makes her seem like she was this bad parent who enabled this. And, if she could change things, she would. And if she had done those things differently in the moment, the killings wouldn't have happened. And I get that argument, so she kind of did have to say she wouldn't change anything, but it also seems so freaking callous based on the charges she's going through and what actually happened. And, the victims and families are sitting out in the jury, or, they're listening to everything. They're watching this, and essentially that's what I think there. If she didn't know everything, they can't expect her to have gone through all of his journals, and she testified that she didn't. Even the person from the state said that he didn't think she read the journals. So she didn't know the extent to how bad he was. There's probably a lot that if she knew, she would have done things differently. Another big thing I think that found her guilty is that she allowed him to have this gun. It was a Christmas present from her and her husband for this kid, which I get is not good. I am not the staunchest gun defender. I think that the Second Amendment is important, but I think that gun violence is crazy in America and something's got to give, and the Second Amendment is easier to give than more school shootings. You know, if some people have to have a harder time getting a gun, then so be it if it saves a life. You know, I'm not saying take away everyone's guns or anything crazy like that. And I'm not trying to sound woke or anything, because another big point I have is that her giving them the gun is not that bad. The testimony said that it was in a case, locked up. They didn't do great because they used the default code, which was 0000. Pretty freaking dumb. But also, like, if it was locked up, then they did their duty. If it's legal in America to have a kid a gun, you know, and it's not in his possession, it's just a gun that he can use when he and his parents go to the gun range. You know, it's for target practice. You know, I know tons of kids who had guns for themselves, for hunting, for target practice, etc. They knew what they were doing. They had guns. It wasn't seen as a bad thing. A big argument I keep seeing is that the parents of this shooter should have told the school he had access to a gun. Well, one, they didn't think he had access to a gun because they thought it was locked up. Two, they seemingly didn't think that he would do anything like that. At worst, it seems like maybe they thought he would hurt himself. But by all accounts, from them, during their testimony that the jury should have heard, whether or not the jury found them uncredible, and on some things, they're not the most credible. You know, she had an affair. I don't think that should make her like a liar for life, and that she would be culpable for her son doing a heinous crime. You know, an affair is a thing a ton of people have done. And if that was a big factor in them not trusting her and finding her guilty, I don't think that's fair. But I just think it sets a really dangerous precedent that parents have to know everything their kids are doing, which they should have a good grasp on everything their kids are doing. But, like, the kids hide things. Kids keep secrets. Kids hide things. Kids have privacy. And that's necessary for kids. You know, he's in 10th grade. You can't expect these parents to not give this kid any privacy, especially if they're concerned that he's going to hurt himself and he's depressed. Like, taking away all of a 10th grader's privacy and going through his belongings and treating him in that kind of way, yeah, maybe it would have prevented a school shooting, but, like, that would have made him way more depressed and mentally ill. Like, they should have gotten him help. And the school told them they needed to get him help, and it seemed like they were going to. Maybe not, but the last thing I want to point out is that Ethan himself, in his sentencing, said he did this alone. He was not going to be stopped if he got help, and he said that his parents and the school couldn't have stopped it, and they weren't responsible for doing it either. Ethan couldn't testify for his mom's trial. He is appealing his own convictions, so there's a thing there where he can't take the stand while that's all going. And basically, he was tried as an adult and said his parents weren't responsible. I feel like the precedent being set is that parents can be held responsible for crazy, terrible things that their kids do when they may have had no real knowledge or expectations that it could happen. And the school had his backpack with the gun in it and didn't search it, didn't say the parents had to take him home. They didn't think that it was such a threat that he should stay in the office being watched or immediately go home or anything like that, that they should search his bag. It's a little frustrating, and slippery slope is a way that I've heard it described. And I think that that's somewhat accurate. Like, there is a lot of things going against the Crumbley parents here that makes them more responsible than other parents may be in a situation like this. And I get that. But, you know, Kyle Rittenhouse's mom dropped him off as a 17-year-old with a weapon, and he killed somebody. And she wasn't found responsible in any way. She dropped him off. You know, she knew he had a gun. She dropped him off. The double standards and the weird, like, way that this could go, or the way that it couldn't go, and it just screws over these parents because the prosecutor, you know, and maybe I'm wrong. I feel kind of bad making this rant even, so maybe I'll take it down. But I'm curious what everybody thinks, because I definitely have mixed feelings. But ultimately, I don't think I would have made the same decision if I was on the jury. What Ethan did was terrible. Jennifer was not a good mother. But her testimony did seem like she cared about her son, and that she was very hurt with what happened. And locking somebody in a cage isn't gonna change much, if you ask me. Especially with her, like, it doesn't teach her a lesson. She doesn't have another kid. Her life has already been ruined. I don't know. Definitely curious to hear anybody's comments who has anything to say. Thanks for watching. Bye.